Hi, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Rectified podcast. Today's guest is Erica Rankin, founder and chief everything officer of Brodo. Brodo is a Canadian snack brand that currently sells protein cookie dough bites in retail. She built a following of almost 300,000 people completely organically in less than 3 years and offers marketing consulting to other brands as a passion project. Erica, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Erica, how do you deal with rejection? We're following your journey on social media and we see a lot of rejection. How does that feel?
It felt really bad at first, not gonna lie. When I first started the business, I took things very personally. And I think now I kind of look at it like a video game. Like I
Okay.
look at like life and entrepreneurship as a video game. And just understanding that rejection is normal and it happens. And
Yeah.
the most successful entrepreneurs that we look up to, like our role models, have faced so much rejection in their life, right? Like
Yeah.
it happens and it makes you
Mm,
a stronger person in the end.
mm. Did you reach a point where if somebody says no, you're like, okay, fine, whatever, next? Did you reach that point?
So the first time I got like seriously rejected was in 2020 when I had an investor come along and was very interested, and I was very new to the business. I didn't really understand how things fully
Mm,
worked yet. And, I was excited because someone was interested in the business, and he was kind of stringing me along for a little bit. And then he decided, no, like, I'm not going to be giving you money. I didn't need it at the time. It
yeah.
all worked out for the greater good, right?
Yes. Yes.
But I remember him saying, he didn't like my business, basically. He didn't like the name of it. He didn't like the product. There was a bunch of things he wanted to change. And
Oh.
at that moment, I questioned everything. I was like, am I doing the right thing? Like, is this business working? Like, what am I doing? Maybe he's
Mm,
right. And I kind of let it get in my head. And it did, like, really upset me, and from that moment on, I'm like, "Okay, I'm not gonna just gonna let that roll off my back and then keep moving forward." And
mm.
the same goes with, social media. I remember when I first started putting out content and it wasn't getting any views, it wasn't getting any traction, and people actually made fun of me for how little engagement I got. But
Yeah.
you just have to keep going.
But we all have to start somewhere, especially on social media. Like you just post things at the beginning and nobody sees them. And then at some point, it just works out. Erica, tell us a little bit about your story. Like, how did you come up with this product? What, all the things related to Brodo.
Sure. So yeah, the question I get the most is why is it called Brodo and you're a woman founder? I don't understand.
Yeah.
I used to be a bro. I would spend all my time in the gym. I competed in bodybuilding in
Oh.
2018. So I graduated with a degree in psychology, started working in my fields, got the 9 to 5 job, was super unfulfilled, super unhappy. The prerequisite was an undergrad degree, but I was photocopying documents. I was answering the phone. I was doing data entry,
Mm,
and I felt almost kind of tricked in a way. So I stumbled across an entrepreneurship podcast at my desk. And at the same time, I was competing in bodybuilding. And that was something I was working towards. And then I started listening to this entrepreneurship podcast. And it got to a point where my contract had expired working with that company. And they asked if I wanted to continue on. And I said no. So I quit. And then I booked a one-way trip to Thailand after competing in my bodybuilding
wow.
competition. Yeah, so I thought, "You know what? I'm living at home with my parents. I feel like I have no idea what I'm doing with my life." I felt in a way too, like I needed to immerse myself in a different country to really have gratitude for what I have, because I felt very privileged. Um,
Mm,
and I just needed to be humbled a little bit too. Like I just needed to go away and see something different and meet different people. So I ended up staying for months and a bit. I did Thailand, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, and met entrepreneurs on that trip. And
mm,
then that's when I kind of had like that aha moment, right? And I was talking to people who were building immaculate mansions in Thailand, who were former lawyers who had no business experience. I met a high school dropout who had a moving company and would work remotely 6 months out of the year. And I don't know why, but I had this big idea in my head that in order to have business, you needed parents who could like open doors for you who were entrepreneurs,
uh,
or you needed to be surrounded by entrepreneurs. or you needed a business degree, or you had to be a man, like there's all these like limitations, limiting beliefs that I had in my head that I didn't even realize were there.
Yeah.
So the other thing that I found very interesting is when I was having conversations with these people, their faces would light up when they talked about what they did for a living, which I'd never seen before, like God bless my parents, but they don't light up when they talk about what they do for work.
Yeah.
And same with like my friends. It's like, oh my God, it's Friday, finally, you never hear someone rooting for a Sunday. It's always Sunday scaries and they're like dreading that it's Monday. So I just remember looking at that. And I'm like, I really want that. I don't know what that is for me yet,
Mm.
but like I want that. So I got home and then I Googled business workshop near me and I drove out to the closest business resource center, learned how to write a business plan. And then I had to figure out what the business would be. So the questions I asked myself was, what do I love? What am I really passionate about? What do people need? And what does the market need? And going back to my bodybuilding days, I used to create this healthier, like I would recreate a bunch of different things with this one specific product I would share on my Instagram that was called Erica Foodie at the time. And it got a lot of attention. And there were these cookie dough bites. They were
Mm.
vegan, they were cleaner ingredients, mm, yeah, just like added protein. And I loved them and I made them because I couldn't find anything like that in the grocery store. So I thought, why don't we launch the protein cookie dough and I'll call it Bro Dough. And yeah, later that year, I ended up launching it into the market and now we're here.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing. It's interesting how when we see other people, like you said, other entrepreneurs um on the other side of the world, but they're happy, they want to wake up every Monday and go to work instead of having like Sunday scaries and all of that. And it's interesting how when you see these people, it something switches in your mind. If that's what you really want to do, you just like go and like, okay, I really need this. It's a sign. Um, so Brodo, now we know the story of the name. We know how you came up with it, but we always see the challenges. Everything is challenging. Entrepreneurship is challenging. And how did you say, okay, no matter what happens, I'm going to keep doing this? No matter how many rejections I get, no matter how long I'm like without money, we all have these challenges. Like, what makes you keep going and say, okay, I'm going to keep doing this. I need to keep doing this.
I journal a lot and it's like cheesy and some people are like, oh, journaling,
Yeah.
it's like woo woo. But I think also so I look back to the life that I was living before. I was working the 9 to 5. And sometimes I do question like, how nice it would be to just have a salary and benefits. Like
Mm,
I get my teeth cleaned in a basement and I have to pay cash, like
yeah.
it would be really good to have benefits. Not gonna lie. But yeah, I think on the hard days, like I look through all the journal entries and all the stuff that I've gotten through, and then I go
Hmm.
back to my why. I sit down with myself and I'm like, why am I doing that? Why did I do this in the first place? And how much work have I put into this business so far? And I'm going to throw that all away for what? What would I be doing? Would
Yeah.
I go back to my 9 to 5 and answer phones? Like, is that what I really want for myself? So I guess what I do as well is I just look at how much I've learned over the past 3.5 years doing this. And, even if it quote unquote fails or doesn't work in the way that I want it to, it's brought me so many other opportunities. I've
Yeah.
met the most incredible people. I have investors that I'm actually, like one of my advisors, I work for him. And there's just so many opportunities that have come from Brodo that I'm just so grateful for. So it wasn't really, even if it doesn't work out the way I intend, it's not a failure. It's not,
Yes.
um, there's just so much that has come out of it and I've kind of evolved into this different version of myself. And
Mm,
I think people just need to look at it that way. And again, going back to the most successful entrepreneurs that you see that you look up to, like their first business, their second business, their third business, often they didn't work out, right? It was like the fourth or fifth or sixth one, but they
true.
built all the skills in those quote unquote failure businesses to get to the winning businesses.
Mm,
So that's what I tell myself. And I'm young. I don't have kids or like a family or a mortgage or my
yeah.
car's paid off. So it's like if all goes to shit, I can move back home with my parents and we'll be okay. So it's a little
Yeah.
easier for me to take risks.
Mm, yeah. I always find entrepreneur stories very interesting. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life and I often find myself willing to give up, or like I feel like, can I just like shut my phone off and not go on social media and not do this? Just like, have some calm around me. Do you ever get that feeling?
Yeah, I actually this weekend, so I'm going up to Whistler to visit a friend, and I made a promise to myself because I haven't like completely unplugged from social media for like a
Mm,
year at least. I'm gonna log out of all of my social media apps and just like disconnect from the world for like
yeah.
2 days. I'm gonna try my best. But yeah, there are days where, especially so before, when I was posting on social media, I wasn't getting a ton of engagement. Now I kind of have a little bit of a following. So when you put out content, you obviously get people who love what you're doing and they're very
Mm,
supportive, but then you also get a
yeah.
very, very small percentage of people who are very, very unhappy and very mean and they take
Mm,
things out on you. And those have, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, they do hurt when you see comments that are just very mean. Or, like, I had someone write me a very mean email. It was like an essay. Like, this man took time to write an
wow.
email. So there are things like that that happen, and it's like, wow, it's really sad that there's
Yeah,
people out there that are like that. But again, a lot of that is just a reflection of them. It's not really you, right?
exactly. Plus, you have that much time to actually write a long
It's kind of
email.
flattering. Yeah, it's like, wow, I'm like living in your head rent free, you know? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Erica, what made you think about, let me share my journey on social media instead of just like most product owners, they just take pictures of their products and they post them on social media, while you took another route where you're sharing everything that's going on with you, like your journey, your struggles, the good days, the bad days, everything. What made you think of going that way?
So specifically, like on LinkedIn, I went on there in 2020 because I needed a mentor. I didn't know where else to go to get help because I was really stuck on my business.
Mm,
And then when I went on there, I had 12 connections. It was like my picture from when I was like 16 years old, black and white. Like what was it called? Picnic was like the photo editing website that I used back when I was in high school. But yeah, I remember going on there, scrolling, and then just seeing a lot of like shiny, like fluff stuff, like, oh, we
yeah,
raised X amount of money. We grew our team from 10 employees to 30 employees. We launched into 1,000 new stores across North America, whatever it may be.
yeah,
And then here I am, driving around with cookie dough in my trunks, um, dumpster diving for boxes, like doing like crazy stuff that just seems very weird. And I felt in a way like I couldn't relate to anyone. I felt like I was doing things wrong. I felt embarrassed about where I was at in my journey because, you think you need the big warehouse and the team and like
yeah.
none of that stuff comes to you immediately. Like you can't, it doesn't just work like that, right? Unless you're backed by big money, but I
Yeah,
wasn't. So
that's a whole other story.
yeah. So, and like I was very scrappy. I was doing everything. I was stretching a penny. And so I started talking to other founders, and then we all kind of had a lot of similarities in the struggles that we faced and like, money issues and had to, like, you have to get my logo made off Fiverr and do it like for 50
Mm,
bucks. There's just like things that I
yeah.
did that, and I started to realize, okay, like a lot of people are actually like doing the exact same thing that I'm doing. People are just like too ashamed to talk about it or they're not comfortable in it too.
Yeah.
So it was really easy for me to start posting because I had like no connections and I just put in my first post and like literally no one's gonna see this. Like no one is following me. And it did pretty good. And I just started like sharing everything, like storing cookie dough in my car, like packing orders at 5 a.m. and just being so exhausted and not living my best life during that time, like kitchen disasters, things that go wrong in the
Mm,
business,
mm,
mental health struggles, all of that, because I think people forget at the end of the day, yeah, like you're an entrepreneur, you're an employer, you're a founder, you're all these things, but you're also a human and you have your
mm.
personal life and your personal struggles. And oftentimes it's very intertwined. They're not compartmentalized. So I looked at it that way too. I'm like, okay, I'm going to talk more about my personal stuff because that's kind of important too. Like we're oftentimes just so immersed in the day to day stuff. We need to
Yeah.
talk about stuff too.
Mm,
So in doing that, I guess I kind of built a following and I've gotten customers that way, friends, mentors, advisors, investors. It's just really benefited me in the business in the long run.
mm.
People really like the transparency. And I think now more and
Yeah.
more people are starting to come forward and
Yeah.
show what it's actually like and quote unquote build in public.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially on LinkedIn. LinkedIn was always like the place where you only share your wins. Like, I won this award and I finished this degree and I did this certificate. It was always like that. But yeah, nowadays I'm seeing more and more personal stuff. Some of them feel fake. I don't know if they're fake, but it's authenticity and make it like real, like sharing the real stuff, not just because I need to be authentic. Let me share this on LinkedIn kind of thing. I think that makes the difference, and probably that's what made people find you and talk to you and all of these things. And so you started on LinkedIn, and then you moved to TikTok. How did you do it, or was it all at the same time?
So LinkedIn was first, and then I was on Instagram before that. But the thing is, I'm a very introverted person, like despite what people may think or
Yeah.
see. Like honestly, even when I go to events and it's like, okay, introduce yourself, and there's like 10 people in a circle, I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to talk in front of 10 people. Do you know what I mean? I'm still at that
Yes.
stage, which is really weird because I can openly like post on TikTok and like LinkedIn and like tens of thousands of people can see it and I don't bat an
Mm,
eye, but when it's like one on one.
mm,
But with Instagram, I and even like when I launched my website, I realized, oh, I need money for marketing and I don't have money for marketing,
yeah.
paid ads. And I basically was forced to get scrappy and creative. And what I started doing is I started on Instagram. I would go on Instagram stories and I would just pretend that I had like tens of thousands of followers. And I really had like two or 300 at the time. And it was like,
Mm.
hey guys, we're restocking. Like, and if you order before 12 p.m. today, like, I will drive it to your house on Friday. So it was like, and then I would get like one or two orders from that, but I would keep talking. Oh my God, guys, we have one jar left, you know? And doing that, it just like really allowed me to build a relationship with my customers. And it really just starts with one customer at a time. Like there'd be one
Sure.
person, I would deliver to them, then they would tell their friend, and then they would order, and then they would tell their friend, and then they would post on social media, and I would do handwritten notes. I would do all the things that like didn't scale, but it
Yeah.
did scale. It really worked in
Yeah.
my favor. And then when I started posting like the weird stuff of like me getting up, early on a Friday and driving for 12 hours across Ottawa where I started the business, and like showing people the journey of it, people really liked it. They thought it was really cool and then they wanted to support
Mm.
me more. So I thought, okay, I'm onto something. This is free. I don't have to pay for
Yes.
ads and it really works. And like my competitors aren't doing this. So why
Yeah.
don't we just like humanize the brand and take people through the journey? So that's what I did, and then I had a friend who went viral on TikTok, and I saw that happen in 2021. I think it was, like, March 2021, and I thought, "Okay, I need to get on there too. Like, let's just get on there and post every day." And, from there, like, I had my first viral video, and then I just continued to, like, show the behind the scenes stuff, engage with customers, because I don't really like to look at customers as, like, a number, really. They're not
Mm.
a metric, they're not a
Yeah.
statistic. They're a friend and they're someone that I want to stick with me through the whole journey. Like, I don't
Yeah.
just want their dollar today. I want it tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And I
Mm.
want them to like feel something, right? Because if there's
Yes.
another brand that comes along that's cheaper and they don't really have an emotional tie with my brand, they're just going to go for the cheaper one. Like, there's no reason for them to. So,
So true.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I love this because now you have like a group of people who are like super fans for you and they're like following you and they want to be part of your journey and they want to encourage you. I'm really glad that you didn't have money to pay for ads, to say the least, because most brands that I talk to or work with, they always like they want the easy way out and they put some money on it and then they do ads. And at some point they're stuck. If they reduce their ad spend, they're no longer selling, that
Mm.
kind of thing. While if you start organically and that works and you have all these people who are there, maybe you can later on when you have more money complement it with ads. Do you do ads today or is it still just organic?
So it's just organic. So we pivoted and we're launching a brand new improved version of our cookie dough and we just
Yes.
do retail. So we don't do direct to consumer. So it's really hard. Like if we were to run ads, it'd be really hard to figure out like if they're working or not
Mm,
because we're only selling in retail. So like what I've been doing in terms of marketing is like doing demos. This afternoon, I'm going to a gym, and then what we'll do is look at the data from the stores around that gym and see if the sales increase just from doing the demo. And then we're going to be launching new products direct to consumer in the US in Q1 of 2024. And then we're probably going to be putting some money behind some of the organic stuff that has performed
Mm-hmm.
well previously and kind of see how that will work. But definitely, like, I don't rely on paid marketing. I
Yeah.
think it's kind of like you got the cake, and then that's kind of like the sprinkles on the cake, you know?
It's very interesting when you have things happening online for you. If you're selling online, which you're not, you're pivoting to like selling retail. But if you're selling online, you have all these metrics that you can track. However, like with what you're doing now, it's very difficult to actually track. You said you're going to track like this afternoon's event, but you can't really know attribute like this effort to this sales, which is pretty interesting also. Erica, would you change anything that you have done so far, or do you really love this journey and you say, you know, if this didn't happen, I wouldn't be here today?
I am grateful for everything. I don't have regrets really. I mean, if I were to change one thing, it would be to get help sooner because I was very stubborn and I did everything
Mm,
by myself for so long. And I
yeah.
remember when I first hired and first got help, it completely changed my business. And
Mm,
I was just so stubborn for like 2 years and tried to do it all on my own. I was getting extremely burnt out and really upset all the time. Like the littlest things would trigger me. If I stubbed my toe, it would be like, oh my God, the world is ending.
yeah.
Like, um, but that's, yeah, I mean, in terms of like where I'm at and the journey I have, like I wouldn't change anything. And I think about that often with, like journaling and stuff. It's just like,
Yeah.
I'm really grateful for, and I love the quote, like things happen for you, not to you, right? Like there's always a reason why things work out the
Yeah.
way they do. And I always try to tell myself that, like, going through rejection, like I had another investor that was like, okay, I'm not actually going to go through with this. Like, okay, there's a reason why this didn't happen the way that I wanted it to. Like,
Mm, mm,
it's redirection or protection or whatever they say it is.
yes.
So
Yeah, I truly believe in this. I do also write stuff in my journal. I've been slacking this summer, but in general, I do write whatever that's on my mind. It also helps me like put things out there on paper and just like remove them from my
brain
brain.
dump. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it also sometimes when you write things down, it makes you realize things that when they're inside your head, you're like, oh, why is this happening to me? And then when you write it, you get some perspective from the whole story. Erica, we're almost at the end of the episode, and I usually like to ask my guests 3 questions. You can ask them as quickly as possible. Are you ready?
Sure.
So what would your friends describe what you do for a living?
She sells cookie dough, I
As
guess.
simple
That's,
as that.
yeah.
Um, what is one thing that what everything that you're doing, like your product or, sharing your journey on social media, or everything that's been going on since a couple of years now, did for someone that you didn't expect, like something nice?
I think it's inspired like younger people to, get after whatever they've secretly wanted to do for a while, or
Mm,
even like older people too. And again, like I love quotes, like simple quotes, but Ed Milet, like he's someone that I follow, and he always
mm,
said lessons are caught, not taught. So I think just like showing what's possible, like raw,
yeah,
real content on social media, people see that, and it could
yeah,
inspire them to like do what they want to do. And
mm,
that's I was inspired too by other entrepreneurs. So it's kind of
yes.
like this cycle. So the fact that I have the ability to mentor, like I've been mentoring this one guy who just launched a functional like protein bar company. And I remember having the first conversation with him. He messaged me on LinkedIn like a year ago and was like, I have this idea. And then a few weeks ago, he did like his first production run and we were like holding it like it was a full
Mm-hmm.
product. And I was able
Mm-hmm.
to see the whole evolution of that process. So that is really cool. And that's like my favorite thing about entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I love this. Third question, is there a book that changed your life and that you would recommend to our audience?
Yeah, I always say The Power of One More by Ed Milet, like, I really do.
Mm.
Again, I'm a big fan of Ed, I love what he does, and,
Yeah.
that's a really good book for sure, yeah.
Yeah, I do love this. Honestly, every single time I feel demotivated, I just watch some of his clips where he says, do one more, do one more. And then I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, I'm going to do one more.
One more. That's all it is. Yeah, that's how I felt when I like go out and do content and I'm interviewing strangers and I get no, no, no. I'm like, just one more. Just one more.
Yeah.
And then eventually you get that yes. Yeah.
Exactly. Erica, where can people find Brodo today?
So if you're in Canada, I mean, we're launching into retail across the country over the next few months. So you'll find us on shelf. And then if you're based in the US, we have a cookie club wait list on our website, ebrodo.com, that you can sign up for. And then you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Erica Rankin, and we're all over social, ebrodo.
Perfect. Thank you, Erica, for being a guest on my podcast. And to all the listeners, I'll be back next week with a new episode.